When a soul is born into this world, it carries more than a body. It carries a purpose. According to Edgar Cayce, each soul volunteers for life on earth, not by chance, but by divine design. Before we ever take our first breath, we are shown the blueprint of our life. The lessons to be learned, the people we will meet, the challenges we must endure, and the light we are meant to bring into the world. But what happens when we fail? Cayce revealed that some souls forget their mission entirely, distracted by material desires, ego, or fear. The original divine plan fades into the noise of human existence, and when death comes, the moment of awakening can be both illuminating and heartbreaking. In one of his most haunting readings, Cayce described the scene after death for such souls. They find themselves not in fiery punishment, but in a realm of dim light, a place of reflection rather than torment. There they are met by guides or loving presences who do not condemn them but help them remember what was lost. The truth unfolds not as judgment, but as realization. The soul is shown its earthly life from a higher vantage point. Every choice, every moment when love could have been chosen over pride, compassion over indifference, faith over fear. Cayce said that this review is not about shame, but understanding. The soul sees clearly what it refused to see before. And in that clarity, the greatest pain arises. Not because God punishes, but because the soul recognizes how it turned away from its own divine purpose. Cayce's insight reminds us, failure isn't about missing success in the worldly sense, but about missing the inner awakening we promised ourselves we would seek. In this revelation, the afterlife is not a courtroom, but a classroom, and every failure, even the deepest, can become the seed of renewal. When the physical body falls away and the soul begins its passage through the veil, there is no sound, no rushing wind, only an awakening. For many it is peaceful, but for those who drifted far from their purpose, Cayce said the first sensation is confusion. They feel alive but weightless, standing between worlds. They see familiar shapes, their loved ones, their home, the sky, but everything is luminous, flickering, fading like a dream that can't be held. Cayce described this realm as one of gentle light and deep silence, a place of reflection that mirrors the state of the inner soul. If one's life was lived in harmony, the light feels radiant and inviting. But if the soul's mission was ignored, the light grows dimmer as though clouded by its own regrets. It is not punishment, but resonance. Each soul experiences exactly what it has created within itself. Here the guides appear, beings of love and patience who approach not with judgment, but with compassion. They help the soul to remember who it truly is. Cayce said they speak not in words, but in impressions that flow directly into the heart. The guides do not accuse, instead, they hold up the mirror of truth. The soul begins to see. It is shown moments when it was offered chances to heal, forgive, or uplift others, and chose instead to turn away. It remembers promises made before birth, to bring kindness, to overcome fear, to awaken others, and how easily those promises were forgotten in the struggle of human life. For many, this realization brings a flood of emotion. Cayce said some souls cry out, not from fear but from sorrow. They realize how much of their potential for love was left unused, how many chances for growth were wasted. Yet even here, there is hope. For as soon as the soul understands, it begins to heal. Cayce compared this process to waking from a long sleep. The soul does not face an angry God, but the truth of its own being. It is as if the divine light waits silently, allowing the soul to choose, remain in self-pity and confusion, or step forward into growth and grace. Those who accept what they see begin to ascend through layers of vibration, each one brighter, more peaceful. But those who cling to regret or refuse to let go of pride remain in what Cayce called the gray fields, a realm between light and darkness, where time feels endless. Still, even there, the soul is not abandoned. Cayce insisted that no soul is ever lost. The divine light waits patiently until every being remembers its source. The failure of one lifetime becomes the preparation for the next, the soil in which the seed of wisdom begins to sprout. In these luminous realms, the truth becomes clear. The universe is not a place of punishment, but of progression. The soul's pain is never eternal. It is the teacher that reminds us to return to the light and to the purpose we once vowed to fulfill. According to Edgar Cayce, no soul ever enters Earth by accident. Each incarnation is chosen with precision, crafted from the lessons the soul needs most at that stage of its eternal journey. Every experience, he said, is a test, an opportunity to apply the ideals the soul already knows. Cayce revealed that before birth, souls review their spiritual record, the karma, choices, and missed opportunities from prior lives. Then, with divine guidance, they design a new life that will bring balance and growth. The difficulties we face are not punishments, but custom-made lessons chosen by our higher self to refine love, patience, forgiveness, and compassion. Yet not every soul succeeds. Cayce said that Earth's vibrations are dense and distracting. The material world pulls the mind toward survival, comfort, and pride, causing the soul to forget its purpose. A life that begins with promise may end in spiritual sleep. The mission to awaken, to serve, to evolve gets buried beneath daily concerns. In the readings, Cayce described that these failures are not judged by any divine wrath, but by the soul's own recognition once it crosses back into spirit. When the veil lifts, the soul remembers its original plan and sees clearly where it fell short. That recognition is often the deepest sorrow a soul can feel, the awareness that it had the chance to express divine love, but chose fear or selfishness instead. He called this the law of grace and opportunity. Even when we falter, the universe responds not with punishment, but with another chance. The soul is offered new ways to balance its choices, another lifetime, another path, another meeting with those it once wronged. But the key, Cayce emphasized, is awareness. A soul that awakens during life can transform everything. When one realizes that pain, betrayal, or struggle are not curses but mirrors for growth, the soul begins to align with its divine pattern again. That is why, Cayce said, tests are sacred. Each challenge, whether illness, heartbreak, or loss, carries a hidden blessing. It is the universe whispering, "Remember why you came." When we meet difficulty with patience and love, we transform karma into light. Cayce often compared Earth to a great classroom. No test is ever failed forever, he said, only repeated until the lesson is learned. Souls who seem to fail their mission are not condemned. They simply return again and again until love becomes their nature. But here lies a mystery Cayce revealed only in his deepest trances. Some souls resist their own progress. They cling to pride or power, refusing to grow. These are the ones who find themselves caught between worlds, not yet ready to rejoin the light, but unable to remain in darkness. Edgar Cayce spoke of a mysterious realm few ever glimpse, a dimension suspended between light and shadow, where time loses meaning. He called it the borderland, a resting place for souls who fail to complete their Earth mission or release the attachments that bound them. These souls do not move forward because they cannot yet face what awaits them in the higher realms. Cayce described how, at death, each soul encounters a review of its earthly life, a vivid replay of every thought, action, and emotion. For many, it is a moment of wonder and learning. But for those who have resisted spiritual growth, the experience can be unbearable. They turn from the light, unable to accept that love and forgiveness still reach for them. In that single motion of resistance, they drift into the borderland, a plane of twilight consciousness where longing replaces clarity. In this realm, everything seems familiar, yet distant. Echoes of loved ones, fragments of laughter, the outline of homes they once knew. But it all feels hollow, as if made of smoke. Cayce said these souls are clinging to vibrations that no longer sustain them. They chase sensations, wealth, power, validation, but the spiritual energy to sustain such desires no longer exists. Here, the soul becomes its own mirror. Every unresolved emotion, fear, guilt, resentment, pride, takes form around it, not as punishment, but as reflection. It lives within the vibrations it created. Cayce described this as a merciful design, allowing the soul to see itself clearly for the first time. Yet many wander for what seems like centuries, lost in repetition, reliving their last choices or conflicts. Still, no soul is ever abandoned. Cayce said that guides, angels, and loved ones wait patiently at the periphery of the borderland, radiating light and whispering reminders of home. But they cannot intervene until the soul itself chooses to turn toward that light. Free will endures even beyond death. The choice to evolve, to surrender, remains sacred. The tether that keeps these souls suspended is emotional. Cords of regret and unhealed energy binding them to Earth's lower planes. Forgiveness is the key that dissolves these cords. Not divine forgiveness, but self-forgiveness. The moment when the soul finally accepts that it is still worthy of light. Cayce once spoke of a soul trapped in this liminal state, endlessly reliving its death. Only when it cried out, "I remember love," did the scene dissolve. The soul's vibration shifted instantly, drawn upward by what Cayce called the divine magnet of mercy. The borderland, then, is not a place of punishment, but of grace. A quiet interval where God waits for the soul to choose again. It is the universe's way of saying you are not lost, only resting between heartbeats of eternity. When Edgar Cayce spoke of souls who fail their earthly mission, he often emphasized that failure is never final. The universe, he said, is governed by a law of divine balance, a rhythm of correction, not condemnation. Every action, every thought, every neglected truth sends out a vibration, and those vibrations must eventually harmonize with the greater pattern of creation. According to Cayce, when a soul lingers too long in regret or confusion, higher beings, guides of light, begin to gently awaken it through vibration, sound, or memory. It is not forceful. It is more like a whisper in the soul's awareness, a soft reminder that its journey is not over. These vibrations stir a longing to set things right, to complete what was left undone. The soul then enters what Cayce called the Hall of Records, not a physical hall, but a plane of pure consciousness where the soul's entire history is written in energy. Here it does not face judgment, but reflection. Every experience is seen not as success or failure, but as learning. The soul perceives the ripples it sent through others' lives, the kindness that healed, the anger that wounded, the indifference that delayed growth. And it is in this recognition that the law of balance begins to act. Cayce explained that the universe seeks to restore harmony through opportunities. When a soul realizes what it left unfulfilled, love unspoken, compassion withheld, truth ignored, it begins to magnetize the circumstances that will allow correction in another lifetime. The energy of imbalance becomes the blueprint for rebirth. Some souls, Cayce said, choose quickly. They long to return, to continue the work, to rise from the lessons of sorrow. Others hesitate, fearing the pain of embodiment again. These souls remain in the realms of learning, schools of light where guides help them understand that Earth is not punishment, but the greatest classroom for divine mastery. Here, teachers of higher order, what Cayce called the Lords of Karma, assist in designing the next incarnation. They do not decide fate, but align the soul's intentions with opportunities that match its vibration. If a soul caused suffering, it may choose a life that teaches empathy. If it misused power, it may return to experience humility. Nothing is random. Every detail, from the body chosen to the family entered, is crafted by resonance. Yet before the return, the soul must stand once more before the light, the living presence of God. There, in that boundless radiance, it feels no condemnation, only love so complete. It dissolves all shame. The light does not ask, "Why did you fail?" It asks, "What have you learned, and are you ready to love again?" In that moment, the soul's vibration aligns once more with purpose. The memory of failure transforms into wisdom, the echo of pain into compassion. As Cayce beautifully said, every soul must pass through darkness to remember it is light. And with that remembrance, the soul begins to descend again, not as punishment, but as promise, carrying with it the divine intention to rise higher than before, to heal what was broken, and to love more completely than it ever has. As the soul readies itself for another earthly passage, it does not move alone. Cayce revealed that countless beings of light, messengers, guardians, and what he called record keepers of karma, work silently to guide the soul's transition. Each of these helpers has a role in harmonizing the energies the soul carries from its past life and shaping the new body and environment that will nurture its next steps. He described this process as a divine collaboration, an orchestration that spans realms. The soul, though still luminous and free, begins to feel the pull of material vibration again, the slow rhythm of earth calling it home. Before that descent, however, the helpers gather around it, forming what Cayce likened to a circle of light. Within this circle, the soul reviews its upcoming life plan, a map woven from cause and consequence, love and opportunity. It is here that the most sacred dialogue takes place, not of words, but of energy. The guides, radiant yet tender, remind the soul of its strengths and the challenges that await. They show glimpses of key turning points, moments where forgiveness must triumph over pride, compassion over anger, and faith over despair. Yet they do not reveal everything. Earthly life must still unfold in freedom. The test must remain genuine. Cayce often said that before rebirth, the soul is shown who it will meet again. Faces from many lifetimes appear, some radiant with love, others shadowed by unresolved pain. Every meeting on earth, Cayce said, is the echo of a promise made before birth. These are the souls who will shape the journey ahead, friends who will awaken courage, adversaries who will test patience, and kindred spirits who will help remember truth. In this sacred council, the soul is reminded of its primary mission, the reason it must return. For some, it is to heal generational wounds, for others to serve humanity in quiet ways, and for the rarest few, it is to awaken others to the memory of their divine origin. The soul agrees to forget much of what it knows, so that its choices in the new life are sincere. Free will, Cayce said, is the soul's greatest gift and its greatest responsibility. Then comes the adjustment of vibration, what Cayce described as the lowering of the soul, S frequency. The radiant energy that once moved like light begins to slow, condensing into the pattern that will sustain a human body. The soul passes through layers of consciousness, each one thicker, denser, heavier. The more material it becomes, the dimmer its memory of divine light, yet that spark never fully fades. Deep within, it will always remember home. Guardian spirits oversee this descent, protecting the soul from lower vibrations that might confuse or distort its intent. They wrap it in fields of light, threads of divine love that will remain through childhood, manifesting as intuition, protection, or sudden comfort in moments of despair. At last, when the right moment arrives, when the planetary alignments match the soul's vibrational signature, the descent completes. The soul enters the world once more, taking its first breath, crying out not in fear but in remembrance. That cry, Cayce said, is the echo of the soul's vow. I will try again. Every failed mission becomes the seed of a greater awakening, every return an act of courage. For in the rhythm of life and death, there are no lost souls, only learners, returning again and again until every fragment of creation remembers itself as part of the divine whole. When the soul re-enters the material world, its mission is rarely what the human mind imagines. Cayce explained that each return is less about achievement and more about alignment, aligning the self once again with the divine pattern it temporarily forgot. Many think the goal is success, power, or recognition, but Cayce said the universe measures progress by vibration, by how closely a soul's frequency harmonizes with love, truth, and service. Each lifetime becomes a classroom. The soul enrolls not in subjects of intellect, but of emotion and spirit. Patience, forgiveness, compassion, courage. These are the divine sciences of growth. The experiences that seem most painful, betrayal, loss, failure, are not punishments, but carefully chosen lessons. They are designed by the soul itself, guided by higher intelligence, to awaken dormant aspects of divine awareness within. Cayce often described this cycle as the law of attunement. Every choice a soul makes after returning to Earth vibrates outward and draws in corresponding experiences. If one chooses bitterness, they attract bitterness. If love, they attract love. This is not moral judgment, but the law of resonance in action. The soul, Cayce said, finds itself drawn to that which it has created. Thus, even the most difficult life circumstances hold hidden mercy. They offer the chance to rewrite vibration through conscious love. Some souls return not for their own healing, but to serve others. Cayce referred to them as old souls, beings who have learned the art of compassion through many incarnations. These souls carry deep empathy, often from wounds long healed, and choose lives where their presence becomes a light in others' darkness. They are the quiet healers, the teachers who expect no credit, the ones who seem wise beyond their years. They come, Cayce said, to remind the world of its forgotten divinity. Yet even these advanced souls are not immune to struggle. Earthly life is dense and loud, its illusions seductive, its pain raw. Many forget their purpose soon after birth, overwhelmed by material distraction. That too is part of the design. For remembering under the veil of forgetfulness, that is where true spiritual strength is forged. Cayce described the hidden purpose of reincarnation as a vast spiritual symphony, where each soul plays its part. Some notes are joyous, others dissonant, but all contribute to the harmony of divine evolution. Each soul, he said, is a note in the song of creation. When all notes vibrate in unity, God is heard. As the soul walks its chosen path, it encounters others with whom it shares ancient bonds, karmic companions from lifetimes past. These meetings are never random. The stranger who becomes a lifelong friend, the enemy who provokes the deepest wounds, the love that feels timeless, all are instruments in the soul's awakening. Through them, the soul experiences reflections of its own unfinished story. In the quiet hours of solitude, when the noise of the world fades, many feel a faint homesickness, a subtle ache, as if remembering a light just beyond reach. That is the soul recognizing its divine origin. It is the whisper of the higher self calling the human mind to rise again toward the truth it once knew. Cayce said that the true purpose of every return is simple yet infinite, to learn how to love more perfectly. Not love as emotion but as vibration, the state of total harmony with the divine. When a soul achieves that, it no longer needs to return. It becomes a helper, a guide, a light to others still walking the path. And so each birth, each death, each choice is not an ending but a rhythm in the eternal heartbeat of God. The soul's hidden purpose is not survival, but transformation, to turn experience into wisdom and wisdom into light, until all that remains is love. Edgar Cayce. Readings close this cycle of soul evolution with one of his most compassionate revelations, that no soul is ever lost. No matter how far a being strays from the divine path, how long it resists growth, or how many lifetimes it takes, the universe never gives up on its children. He called this truth the law of grace, the final and most mysterious law governing reincarnation. In the spiritual realms, redemption is not a single moment of forgiveness, but a process of remembrance. When a soul realizes what it has done, when it feels the ripple effects of its actions across time, it does not face condemnation. Instead, it experiences understanding. It sees how ignorance and fear distorted divine light into shadow. And in that seeing, compassion begins. The soul understands that all harm comes from separation from the source, and that separation is an illusion waiting to be healed. Cayce said that God's light never withdraws even from the darkest soul. Those who wander farthest from love are met not with wrath, but with patience. The universe will reshape time itself, lifetimes upon lifetimes, until each being willingly turns toward the light. This is not punishment, but cosmic therapy, the gradual healing of divine consciousness through experience. Every sorrow, every regret, every failure becomes material for transformation. There is no hell, Cayce said, but that created by the soul itself, and no heaven but that which it builds through harmony with its source. When the soul finally turns back toward God, the entire cosmos responds. Guides draw near, angels become visible again. The silver cord that once connected it to the divine hums with renewed brilliance. In that moment of recognition, the soul remembers, I was never separate, I was never forsaken. That realization alone dissolves ages of fear and guilt, restoring the being to its rightful place in the great symphony of light. Cayce described this process as the music of return. Each soul emits a unique vibration that becomes discordant when it forgets divine law. The universe does not silence that note. It surrounds it with harmonies of grace, drawing it gently back into tune. This is why, he said, no soul can truly fall beyond redemption, for the melody of God includes even the notes of dissonance, weaving them into beauty unimaginable. The souls that have completed their earthly cycles often choose to remain near the planes of incarnation, not out of obligation, but love. They become teachers, guides, quiet companions for those still learning. Cayce explained that many of the voices heard in dreams or moments of intuition are these redeemed beings, souls who once fell, learned, and rose again. They serve, he said, because they remember what it was to forget. In the ultimate vision, Cayce saw a universe spiraling upward, countless lights moving toward one radiant center. Each spark, no matter how faint, is part of that ascent. And at the heart of it all is not judgment, not division, but the living light of God, a light so vast that even the shadow is embraced within it. This was Cayce's final message about failure and redemption. Every soul in time becomes light again. The darkness we fear is only the part of ourselves not yet healed, and through love, patience, and divine remembrance, every being returns home. As the reading of life concludes and the soul stands before its Creator, there are no scoldings, no punishments, only a voice that says, "Welcome back, my child. You have learned what you needed to learn. Now shine and help others find their way." That, Cayce revealed, is the ultimate purpose of existence, not perfection, but participation in the endless unfolding of divine love. And through every lifetime, every struggle, every moment of grace, the soul writes its own verse in the eternal song of God.